أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له خصنا بخير كتاب أنزل وأكرمنا بخير نبي أرسل وأتم علينا بأعظم دين شرع دين الإسلام اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا ومن يبتغي غير الإسلام دينا فلا يقبل منه وهو في الآخرة من الخاسرين وأشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا وقائد دربنا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله ربه بالهدى ودين الحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا ومبشرا المؤمنين بأن لهم من الله فضلا كبيرا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I mentioned this a number of times, when he came, he wanted to teach the companions, and he told the companions, and he wanted to teach us, those who believe in him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a way of thinking, a way of looking at the world, a way to perceive the world, not through a materialistic lens, but through the divine lens. What is the purpose of our existence in this dunya? What is our objective? What is our maqsad? And we know our maqsad, our purpose in this dunya is to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the purpose of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything and everyone in our lives. Whether it be our education, our study, our work, we ask ourselves, what is our objective? What is our purpose in doing this work? Is it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is it to please my own nafs, my own ego and other human beings? how we perceive things, how we see things, how we see our relationship, how we view our relationship, how we view other human beings. You see, from a materialistic perspective, from a non-godly perspective, people view other human beings from a materialistic perspective. You know, what kind of degree he or she has, what the skin color of that person, the language of that person speaks, how tall or how short that person is, where that person was born. People value or people regard or people see other people from these perspectives, and that is why, unfortunately, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of racism, a lot of discrimination between different nations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said that we have created you and placed you in different nations and tribes. لِتَعَارَفُوا. What is the purpose behind that? Right. The way we view each other is not based on our culture, based on our language, based on our degree or certificate, not based on our skin color, not based on our physical features. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most noble, the most honored in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is most God-fearing, most righteous. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he came and he turned and he taught the companions this. They valued not materialism, they valued the hereafter. They valued what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. To the point I'm going to talk about very, very briefly a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this companion, we don't know much about him. In the hadith books or the seerah books, not much is mentioned about this companion. We don't know the family name or second name. But we know of him because of one important incident. Radiallahu ta'ala anhu. You know, many young brothers and sisters, especially nowadays, people want to get married. And unfortunately, some community societies have made marriage very, very difficult. Extremely difficult. And I mentioned this before that in the fiqh books, the chapter of marriage to learn is very easy. It's not arduous. It's not very complicated, right? But we have made marriage, getting married, very difficult, very arduous. The mahar and all the other things, unfortunately, put off a lot of people. And on top of that, there's a lot of discrimination. There's a lot of racism. Right? There's a lot of racism within certain communities that they will not get their son or daughter married off to a particular race or particular ethnic background. Yes, compatibility is important, but compatibility does not mean necessarily about the skin color or the language that person speaks in, or where that person family origin comes from originally. The Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith that إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ, that if a person comes to you, مَنْ تَرْضَلَهُ دِينَكُمْ وَخُلُقَكُمْ, if you are happy with his religion, deen and character and akhlaq, then marry your son, marry your daughter. The most important thing is what? Akhlaq. The most important thing is deen. And I'm going to mention a story I'm sure most of all of you have heard before. If you haven't, then very briefly. A companion named Julaibib, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. As I said, we don't know much about that companion, or this companion. We don't know the background of that companion, the family background. And what we know about him, that he wasn't, in terms of in that society, very good looking. He was not rich. He was not educated in that sense. He did not have status in their society from a materialistic perspective. Right? He was, in one sense, and I don't want to talk about a companion of the Prophet ﷺ like this, but in the materialistic perspective, he was nobody. Right? People did not notice him. He was someone who was not given much thought, and he wanted to get married as any human being, as a young person. He wanted to get married. And the Prophet said, "Well, you get married, Ya Julaibib." Right? And the Julaibib said, Ya Rasulullah. Right? Ya Rasulullah, and he was in a way complaining to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Said, Ya Rasulullah. Right? You said, if someone believes in you, believes in Allah, believes in the hereafter, this is the most important thing. This is the most important thing. Not about looks, not about material status, not about physical appearance. Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. This is the most important thing. So, Ya Rasulullah, why don't any families marry the daughter to me? He's probably looking, and because of his status, because of his, physical appearance, right? Families would not, fathers and mothers would not get their daughter married to him. He's complaining, Rasulullah, why are people focusing on these issues, fleeting issues, physical issues, material issues that will go? You said, and you taught us, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, about the most important thing is to be God-fearing, have taqwa. And the Prophet ﷺ said, go to such and such family, to Julaibib. He said, go, and he said, tell them that Rasulullah ﷺ sent you for the marriage of their daughter to you. And he's really happy. He said, if Rasulullah ﷺ is sending me, then obviously the family will listen. The parent, the father will listen. But he's gone. And he knocks on the door. And the companion opens the door and says, yeah, it's Julaibib. So come inside Julaibib. And Julaibib began to say, Rasulullah ﷺ sent me for the marriage of your daughter. Before he could finish, they were so happy. He said, Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillah, Rasulullah ﷺ wants to marry our daughter. Before he could finish the sentence, they were so happy, overjoyed. And he finished, he said, no. Rasulullah ﷺ sent me to ask marriage for your daughter, for myself, not for the Prophet ﷺ. And the father, the companion and the mother, my mother was saying, no, this is Julaibib, how can we get, they went to another room, how can we marry our daughter, to Julaibib? He's a nobody, he has no money, he doesn't, he has no status, he's nothing, right? Why couldn't he send a person like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, Ali and others? Imagine a companion like this, the only person listening, and he could hear what they were saying. He could hear the chatter. He was distraught. He was heartbroken. Imagine, people talking about you like this. He was heartbroken. Radiallahu ta'ala. He came back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, this is what they are saying. Ya Rasulullah, this is what they are saying. And he could, he could see how distraught, how heartbroken this companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is. Now obviously, the Prophet ﷺ spoke to the family and he said, it's not for me, it's for Julaibib. And the daughter overheard the conversation between Julaibib and her parents. And this daughter was very pious, very righteous. She understood the value, how to see other human beings. She understood how to view other human beings, not from a materialistic perspective, but from the divine perspective. And she said to the parents, how can you refuse this marriage? How can you refuse this marriage when the Prophet ﷺ ordered him to come to you for my hand in marriage? Haven't you heard what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said? It is not befitting for a believing man or believing woman when the Rasul and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a decision to reject that decision. And when they make a judgment, when they make a decision, you cannot refuse it. This is the words of this pious, righteous sister. And after that, they got married. They got married. And before they could, continue their marriage and consummation and whatnot, the call for the struggle came. And people, the Sahaba, they had to go to the battlefield and defend Medina, defend the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To cut the long story short, Julaibib also went. Can you imagine this? He's looking to get married and all the struggles and difficulties and challenges that he went through to find someone. And he found someone after the decision of the Prophet after the help of the Prophet But what his concern was not the dunya. His concern was to please Allah and please the Prophet He went to the battlefield and he was killed. He killed his enemies and he was killed. Right? He was killed and the companions came after the battlefield and the Prophet said, are you missing anyone? In order to bury the companions, the dead. Are you missing anyone? He said, no, Rasulullah, we've got someone. He said, go and say, are you missing anyone? He said, I'm missing someone. He would say, I miss Julaibib. And the Prophet ﷺ, he went. The Prophet ﷺ, when he saw Julaibib, he's dead. And the Prophet ﷺ grabbed him and he hugged him and he removed the dust from the body and the face of Julaibib radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Can you imagine the Prophet ﷺ doing this to you? How honored Julaibib radiallahu anhu is. He's showing the Prophet ﷺ, he's not about materialistic things. This is a man, this is a companion that Allah, he loves Allah and Allah loves him. And he loves the Prophet ﷺ and the Prophet ﷺ loves him. And they buried him. And the Prophet ﷺ, the companion, he would get married to the best woman in Jannah, the Hur al-Ain, the best woman in Jannah. And it was said, Anas ibn Malik, the narrator of the hadith, mentioned that after all of the companions, the men in Medina, they wanted to marry this sister because she was concerned not about materialistic things. She was concerned about pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not disobeying the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. How many of us, if you are parents and if you have daughters or sons, that a suitor has come, no matter the background, but is a Muslim, black, white, brown, Asian, no matter what, is a Muslim, has good akhlaq, good education, good deen, but because of his or her background, ethnic, racial background, we automatically, unfortunately, discriminate. We automatically discriminate. This is wrong. This is wrong. The most important thing, my dear brothers and sisters, is deen and akhlaq. Deen and akhlaq. If the couple, if the brother and sister, they fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they try to follow the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, inshallah their marriage will last. Inshallah their marriage will be blessed. Their life will be blessed. How many marriages break apart? Even married within, yes, compatibility, kafa'a, scholars mentioned, kafa'a, compatibility is important, but we live in a cosmopolitan country. We live in London, right, where people are mixing. No matter what background is, we have a similar understanding, especially the second, third, fourth generation Muslims who are born and brought up in this country. So what the focus should be is deen, akhlaq, behavior, character, ethics, morality, how that person would behave with your daughter or with your son. Not about the bank account. Yes, those things are important, not the most important thing. Right? Not about necessarily about physical appearance, obviously, but both of their couple, they need to be physically attracted to each other. Not materialism. But the most important thing is deen. Loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and loving the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When a family puts Allah and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the priority in their lives, everything else becomes easy. Everything else becomes, facilitated for them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to practice or repeat. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to follow the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه تواب رحيم.